everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Low Code Approach. I'm Sean Feeney, a senior product marketing manager on the Microsoft Power Platform and Microsoft Copilot Studio team. And I'm joined by...
It is I, General Pinchal Jocelyn, Senior Product Manager of Purview Integrations and Agentic Security, and I'm joined by...
PPM, I like using acronyms today. Yes. Principal Program Manager, Ken Aguillard. I see my fellow co-hosts are laughing at me here. And with me is also a PPM. His name is Mik Ferland, I think. He's been on my team for quite some time. I would hope I know his name.
Yes, I hope you know my name by now.
Mik, how are you doing, buddy? What are you doing? What are you up to? Why are you here? Let's talk.
I'm doing great. I mean, I'll quickly introduce myself, but as you said, it's a very similar introduction to you, Ken. So we both are in the managed security and platform team. So
managed
for Power
platform.
One of us is not.
For Power Platform and Copilot Studio. So, I mean, we'll get right into it today. And I was explicitly told not to use acronyms, and you used PPM. So that's Principal Product Manager.
That was intentional.
Yeah. Okay. You say the acronyms, I explain them.
Yes.
Oh, I like that. I like that policy. So, Mik, we want to talk about Power Platform Admin Center, and specifically one of the jobs to be done portions of that, the manage section. And if you dig into the manage section, there is inventory. And so that's kind of where we want to dig into. For those that have been on the what we call a classic or purple version of Power Platform Admin Center, if you haven't checked out the new green version, well, time's running out at the time of recording. You need to get in there. So, Mik, let's actually reinforce why they should get in there. Why did we make these changes to the inventory portion of Power Platform Admin Center? What actually brought about the new redesign for it?
It's a super good question. I'll start with an easy answer. It's because it's very important. Because when you're looking at it from a security or governance, whatever angle you try to approach governance of the Power Platform and Copilot Studio, you need to know what exists. So that is the starting point for almost anything that you want to do, right? And that's why in the new admin center, there's been such an emphasis on fully realizing that inventory so that there is no customer that feels that they don't necessarily know what's going on and what's happening within the company with all of these technologies. So we started with the agent inventory, which I'm sure we'll talk about, right, in the new admin center. We still have some progress to make there, but we also will bring in the inventory of other objects later in time, and maybe we'll get to that as well. But it really starts from, you just got to know what exists and what is out there, right? Because then how can you imagine securing or governing if there's shadow development happening under your nose and you don't see it? So we want to bring that flashlight on everything that's happening in the company.
Mik, thanks for the great explanation. So I guess first question is, let's take a page out of our Fearless Leaders book. Let's play the 5 whys. So first off, why are we doing this?
Inventory specifically, or do you want me to get into the new admin center?
No, inventory specifically.
The former? Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's such a foundational data set, right? I might repeat a little bit the answer to my prior question, but a lot of capabilities hinge on us being able to provide a complete, reliable, fresh catalog of everything that's in the company. We just have to do it, right? Because then there's a lot of things that maybe I can fix this part of the answer. But I would start by saying that it's just a core data set for our customers, right? Because then how can we expect our customers to understand maybe billing, right? And how much they should expect having to anticipate agents, right? If they don't necessarily know the full breadth of agents that exist within the company, right? And even likewise from a security perspective, right? Our customers, they will have various policies and things that they will want to put into place. Well, they need to understand what is out there today, right? And how those things may be influenced or impacted by those policies. So, going back to my first answer, no matter what angle you try to approach, right? Governance of Copilot Studio and Power Platform, it starts by just having that understanding first, that catalog, and then you can kind of slice and dice it from there.
So second why now? Is it because of agents? Is it because the timing was just right? Why are we doing this now?
I would say in a perfect world, we would have been on a better footing a few years ago. So that's maybe my fresh perspective working in this space. But I think with everything that's happening with agents, it just gave yet another reason why we need to make sure that our house is in order there, especially since there's so much excitement around the technology, and more than ever, we're seeing even more people want to dabble with agents and want to create some on their own. So I'd say there's even more of like a Cambrian explosion of people wanting to build these objects, right? As opposed to other tools and products that we used to have. So it felt even more important now than ever to make sure that, at least for this new category of products, that we are starting on the right foot, right? So that's where the emphasis on the agent inventory has come in, but we haven't forgotten about everything else. Folks that are tuning in will be happy to hear that, we won't just be doing agents inventory. Like, we will cover apps, we will cover flows, we will cover all those other things. But agents was maybe like that one drop that made the whole thing overflow. And we told ourselves, okay, let's make sure we're doing it right for that. And we'll expand that goodness to everything else.
Okay, so let's put you in the hot seat now, Mik. Why not use the COE?
So it's a very good question. So there's a few, or I guess I'll frame it this way. I'll give two answers actually. Okay. The first one is just going back to inventory being such a core data set that's foundational to anything you want to do in the platform. It has to be there in some shape or form natively in the product. We cannot offload that responsibility to something else, right? So there is that angle that even if the COE was there or was not there today, it would still be very important for us to check a few of those boxes natively in the product, because it's such table stakes for any customers that practically it doesn't make a lot of sense to require somebody to go somewhere else to get that information, if that makes sense. So that's from like a product perspective. But the second reason is that the COE toolkit will have some limitations in terms of how well it could run, right, for customers of certain sizes, right, because it is using the product, right, to build this as well, and not necessarily have all of the underlying architecture technologies, all the stuff that we're able to throw at it when we build it natively in the product. So the promise that we're making from an inventory perspective is that, a customer of any shape or size, like even including Microsoft itself, which has tens of thousands of environments. We've crossed 100,000 environments at Microsoft, right?
We have, yeah.
Okay. So, the promise we're making is that even a customer like Microsoft that has more than 100,000 environments, that has more than 1 million flows, I don't remember the exact number of apps, but, there will be as many agents that they're able to get a complete, reliable, fresh inventory within 15. So that too is the optimization that we've made from the past, where previously all the inventory, it was more reporting experiences. You had to wait like 24 hours, sometimes even more, to actually see like what has happened. Now we're really talking about more of a management experience where it's more real time. Like you will open the page and you will see exactly what you have almost within a few minutes. I do want to give a caveat, because the agent inventory that we've released at Build, it's still in that old paradigm of it takes 24 hours to get the list fresh. And a lot of the work that's happening under the hood, and customers are going to start seeing that goodness in the coming months, hopefully at the Power Platform conference, is that the freshness of that data is finally going to be there. So you create an agent in Copilot Studio, you can even go back to the admin center right away, click refresh, it's there. So that's something that I think it's an advantage you gain by building it natively in the product, right? As opposed to doing it separately from the COE toolkit. But actually, can I give a third answer? A third thing?
It's your podcast, Mik.
Okay. But I would also say this is not a competition with the COE toolkit. Like, I have not had necessarily these conversations yet with all of the very smart people that build those kits, but why not have those kits pull the inventory from the same place that PPAC does, right? Like I said, a lot of the focus that we've had is to just make sure we have that data set, that it's there, it's fresh, it's reliable, anybody can count on it. So who knows like what the future holds from that front, but that's where we are today.
I think, one you just answered. My two other whys is from previous is why is it so slow? But you're saying that we're making, improvements to the efficiency there. And then the fifth why was going to be, well, why not just build on top of the COE? But you just answered that one as well. And forgive me, audience, because I said COE earlier, which stands for Center of Excellence. And as Mik said, Center of Excellence.
Am I supposed to do this too? Okay.
Toolkit. I believe that our general had some questions for you as well, so be prepared.
Yes,
I do.
Okay. I was tired of only getting questions from Ken. Like,
I know, right? He's constantly like this. He's always stealing the mic, stealing my jokes. I don't know why I talk to him. Anyways, I have a 2-part question, and he really dove into the why, and now I want to dive a little bit more into like the what and the how. So first, and you can take this in whatever order you want.
Yep.
First, I want to understand what is the actual experience like as an admin going into the new Power Platform Admin Center and then diving into all of this rich inventory. And then second, we had Brother Austin on the show a couple of months back, and he really dove into managed operations as well as monitoring hub. So we've had a lot of conversations even internally about what do we do with inventory versus what do we do with monitoring hub. So after explaining these two experiences, help me understand as an admin, where do I go to do what?
Yes, it's a very good question. So let's start with the inventory and where you find it today, because it's a little bit hidden. It's not going to be the case in a bit. So if you want to see the full catalog of what people are creating within the company, you go to the Manage Hub, right? And pretty soon you will have a very clear page called inventory. And that's where you're going to be able to go to see the full breadth. And when I say full breadth, it's really all of the agents, apps, flows that are being created across all the environments. So this is a tenant-wide view, okay? You don't have to like click individually into each environment or anything of that nature. It's really the full breadth.
And are there specific roles that I need in order
Yeah.
to do this, just as we're going along the experience?
Yeah, so to begin now, you will need the tenant admin role, which is not great because it is pretty tough for folks tuning in to necessarily get that role, and we understand that. So I think the next iteration, we will have the kind of security trimming where like if you come in as maybe an admin of 3, 4, 5 environments, you'll be able to see the inventory of those environments that you already manage, right? Or administer, if I can say it that way. Pretty soon we'll have the views just be able to adapt to the kind of role that you have. And that's going to kind of open up the funnel and open up the opportunities for more people to actually get access to that data. And then the other thing I would also mention is that this is not the only place where the inventory data is going to be, right? In the Manage Hub, we do have kind of like a different navigation item where you also have like the product itself, like Copilot Studio, Power Apps, Power Automate. You'll also find the inventory of those products and those experiences. So, and that's just in the Manage Hub, but that same data could also make its way in other places. So that's in terms of like, how do you actually get that inventory today? Now, in terms of when would you go to the Manage Hub versus the Monitoring Hub versus licensing or Copilot Hub, I'll give a few examples. So I'll actually start by explaining the other hubs before going back to Manage. But if like the Monitoring Hub is a great place for those handful of agents that are super important and are available across a company, and you cannot afford for those things to go down or to get any like degradation of performance or anything. Exactly, mission critical. So the Monitoring Hub is really the place where you have that in-depth diagnosis about maybe those 10 agents that you really care about. Now, there's other scenarios where you would probably want to go to the Manage Hub because you actually need the full breadth of agents. So just to give a few examples, let's say you want to tweak your advanced connector policy across the company and kind of change the classification of certain connectors and tools. Well, you might want to get a perspective of how many agents are actually making use of those connectors and get a sense of what the potential blast radius is going to be. So that's probably a scenario where you would want to actually get a full perspective of everything that may be impacted by that change. I'll give a third example, and then I think the point will have been made, but like even from a licensing perspective, if you want to get at least a high level understanding of how much are these agents like actually costing me in the company, the licensing hub will be the place for that, right? So if you have those kind of billing questions and you want to understand what's coming out of pocket, right? That is the place to go to. And also the place for you to help understand even the ROI, like not just cost necessarily, but the value that you're getting from that. So that's where it would make more sense to go to those places. But everywhere you go, there is going to be kind of some crisscross of that data, because even when we give you the full inventory in the Manage Hub, we've gotten a lot of feedback that it's still relevant to see some basic usage and billing information of, let's say, the agents, right? Beyond just like the basic list with basic information about it.
Mik, let's put on some nerd hats right now.
Sure.
Recently, we just put on, that's an awesome one, Jocelyn. So we just recently, at the time of recording, put out the Admin API V2 for Power Platform Admin Center. Is there any integration with any of these inventory features that a developer, if they want to make their own solution, can hook into for the Admin API? And if not, is it something that may be coming down the pipe?
That is such a good question that I feel ashamed that I didn't talk about that in some of my prior answers. Because the overwhelming feedback that we keep getting, and I'm sure Sean, Ken, Jocelyn, like, especially for our big enterprise customers, is okay, this is very nice in the admin center, but I don't like to go there
Yeah.
because I have a lot of complexities that I need to manage, right? I have unique reports that I need to build, or I need to build automation around this. The that spirit is carrying forward in our roadmap as well. So when we talk about the inventory per se, it's not going to be constrained to a list in the admin center. It's going to be available through the Power Platform API, right? And if anything, like the actual experience in the admin center is calling that same API, just
Yeah.
by the way. So customers will be able to kind of just pick up on that. And then by virtue of having it in a Power Platform API, it's also going to be available in the admin connector. And that's super important for us, where once we release these new inventory experiences, once again, hopefully at the Power Platform conference, we kind of have that trifecta from the beginning. So the inventory is there today. Like we've worked super hard to make that data set. You can use it through the UI if you want, or you could use it through the API or through the connector. You have those 3 routes. And that way, moving forward, we're not forcing users into workflows that they don't necessarily want to adopt, right? So making sure that we get as many hands on the data as possible, irrespective of the actual path.
Mik, as you can see, I'm putting my hands together here, which is indicative
That means
of
I'm in
me
trouble.
being in trouble.
You are cooked.
That is correct. So let's close our eyes here, because most of our consumers of this fine product that we put out here, known as the Low Code Approach, are podcast listeners, although we do have a YouTube channel and produce shorts. And for those of them that are closing their eyes, I'd like for them to use their imagination while I ask you this question and give you a task. So Mik, I'm an admin and I want to use inventory. What can I see? And what does that look like? And if I am that admin and I'm now seeing those things, what do I wish was there?
Yes. Okay. The second part is actually the second part of the question is the fun part, because it's going to be easy to explain visually what's there today, because I wouldn't say we've been taking baby steps, but we've been really focusing on making sure there's 2 things. There's a complete inventory, or 3 things. It's complete, it's reliable, it's fresh. So since that is the focus, what you see today in PPAC is relatively slim. Like, let's just be honest. So let's take the agent inventory, for example. You have the list of agents, and then for each one of those agents, you have a few columns. So the name, the ID, who owns it, when it was created, when it was last modified, the environment it's in, so on and so forth. So you have a lot of those basic properties that help you distinguish at least one agent versus another. Now, for each one of those columns, you do have filtering and sorting, right? So that too is important, because let's say if you want to see all of the agents that Ken owns, you're able to get that perspective, right? If you want to see perhaps all of the agents that have been created in a certain time frame, maybe let's say like in the past month, to see what are the new agents, who built them, maybe I can reach out to them to coach them a little bit on some of the policies that the company have and make sure that they're building within the confines of what we want them to build. So each one of those columns have that. And then there's a search box and stuff that you can use to kind of further refine the data. So really, our job was to obviously give you the list of things, but also make it easy to slice and dice it however you want. Now, in terms of what's coming next, I think that's where we want to get into that, maybe what we can call like enriched inventory. So today what we have is maybe what you can call basic inventory. So you have the list, it's reliable, it's complete, it's fresh, but it's quite limited in the information that you have. And at a minimum, we do have to append it with more relevant things, because one thing that our colleague Ken, or I'll say it, our boss likes to say is, there's 2 angles. Customers want to manage risk and they want to manage cost. Does that ring a bell? We often hear that. So when it comes to managing risk, like you can even break that down into 2 other buckets, right? One, which is, well, how is this agent actually built and how broadly is it used, right? So at a minimum, like we do need to give some information about, is this agent, what kind of knowledge is it using? What kind of tools is it using? And the reason why we would want to do that is it gives you a little bit of a perspective of how much you need to worry about that agent, right? If for some reason there's no knowledge and there's no tools, well, the agent is effectively not doing much. So it's maybe a little bit less of a concern from like a security and governance perspective. And then on the flip side, from the usage, the potential risk does grow if the usage increases as well, right? So like if you are talking about an agent that is connected to, or let's say it's pulling knowledge from some confidential source in the company, right? If that agent is just used by a single person, or it was last used by a single person 2 years ago, probably not much of a worry. And maybe what you'll want to do is reach out to the owner, maybe just clean it up if it's not used anymore. But if that same agent is actually shared across a company and is being used by a lot of people, then the approach and the urgency is completely different. So that's why from like an inventory perspective, we do need to enrich it with some amount of information so that beyond just being able to distinguish one agent or another, you are able to get already of a sense of how it's built, how broadly it's shared, should you worry about it, should you leave it as is. So that's definitely a direction that we'll want to go in moving forward.
So what I'm hearing you say is that we want to dive deeper, provide more information, more visibility to the admins, makers eventually through the platform that you are building.
Yeah. And the nuance that I would just say is like we need to add more, but not too much. And I guess that the point that I'm trying to make is, let's say you have an agent, because in Copilot Studio today, for example, you do have super in-depth analytics about how the agent is like operating and like the percentage of like successful outcomes versus not. So, that will always be the place to get those kinds of insights. Likewise for billing, right? We might tack on kind of an aggregated data point about maybe consumed messages, right, of the agent in the inventory. But obviously, if you want to go much deeper into the actual billing, how that's trending over time globally, going back to Jocelyn's question, like the licensing hub will be the place to kind of fulfill or answer those questions, right? We do want to enrich the list, but not necessarily try to kind of cloud things by doing too much, right? So just enough so that we can kind of help fulfill those core scenarios for inventory and then kind of even use that as an opportunity to hand off to other experiences when we think that it's probably best for you to go to billing, right? So if you see an agent, there's some basic billing information about it and you want to learn more, right? That's a perfect opportunity to bring you to the licensing hub to answer those questions.
So at time of filming, we are starting to get excited and ramped up for Power Platform Community Conference, PPCC, and then after that, Ignite. Mik, tell me, what are you excited about with the overall vision for inventory leading into our fall conferences?
Yes, so I've been saying this a lot internally, but for me, the goal at PPCC is to finally turn the page, and I'll explain what I mean by that. At PPCC, we finally want to give customers that complete, reliable, fresh inventory of agents, apps, and flows, either in the UI, API, or connector. And when I say turning the page is because we are finally going to have that foundational data set, that core data set that is available to anybody who wants to use it. And now we can start turning the page and getting into some more exciting work that, we've touched a little bit on earlier, right? Like being able to enrich that inventory, right? Being able to build some more interesting experiences on top of that data. So that's what I mean. That like at PPCC, we finally want to be able to tell customers we've got this nailed down, because even from the apps and flow side, it's been many years that we haven't been able to give this kind of inventory in a reliable way. Like even from that perspective, just being able to turn the page, put a check mark on like we finally got it, it works, it's available to everybody, and now we can kind of like move ahead on some very interesting work that we can do beyond PPCC. And maybe I can touch on that right away or dive deeper into
I feel like so much secondhand excitement for you. As a lead child intern, I worked on like the flow runs, and if we put them into PPAC or the COE starter kit like a gazillion years ago. So I just feel like we've come so far.
Yeah. And what I wanted, so for all the customers listening, like we acknowledge and want to thank you for your patience, genuinely speaking. Like I said, this is such a core piece of information that, if I had it my way, we would have had this 5 years ago when I started in a company, right? But the good news is we started on a good footing with agents. We're going to bring that goodness to all of the other workloads that you're using in your company today, like apps and flows, and finally kind of have that no more shadow development. We're going to turn on the lights across the company. Anybody that's building an agent app flow, you will know about it. Nothing's going to be hidden, and you'll finally get that visibility without having to wait a full day. That's important.
Mik, I mean, something you said about 5 years ago just hit me. With the conferences coming up, while we can't say it right now, I think there are some things that we've been definitely working on for the past 3 to 4 years that now these investments are really going to come to light. And I feel that at PPCC and then especially Ignite, we're going to have some nice mic drop moments this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hint, hint for other. Obviously, we can't say.
Yeah. But these are tough problems. Like I think what you're getting at is one thing that I have come to appreciate is it is relatively hard to build this kind of inventory. Like it sounds simple, right? Like I just want a list of things, but folks would be actually quite shocked at everything that's happening under the hood. So that we're able to provide that at a super high scale and high volume with good reliability, it doesn't go down. So I think that to your point, Ken, there's a lot of these investments that have been taking, many years just because they're technically quite challenging. But
and all the investments that we make behind the scenes to get up to this point to lay the foundation so that Mik can build inventory. There's so much.
Exactly. So I don't know if a lot of our engineering teams listen to this podcast, but that's also a shout out to all of them because these are multi-year efforts sometimes. So we're quite excited to announce some of them at PPCC for sure.
Multi-year and multi-team as well. If you think about every single resource that Mik has to be counting, all of those individual resources have multiple teams under the hood that have to contribute to our ability to count these resources.
Yes.
No, that's a good point. So what I'm hearing is if you haven't booked your trip to Power Platform Community Conference, do it. And if you're there and you see Ken, talk to Ken. He loves it. He has no need to eat. He has no need to get to doing what he's doing. He wants to talk to you. That's the thing to take away. And you can't miss it. You literally cannot miss it.
Thanks, Sean. Yes.
Yeah, no worries. Just you heard it from us first. Mik, thank you so much. And also bother Mik too. Like Mik loves that stuff.
But Mik might need.
Yeah, but the reality though is Ken is a rock star at these conferences. Like it almost feels like he's Mick Jagger just walking through the arena.
That's true.
And I'm more of like an assistant, just like walking next to him.
God.
That is my favorite. Hey, Mik, I do want to ask one question before we close up. You mentioned, you've gotten a lot of feedback from customers and you're super excited because we're getting this right. And we've got some really amazing things to talk about. But everyone, we appreciate your feedback on the way the product's moving, the way the admin experience is moving. Mik, if people wanted to deliver feedback, provide their thoughts and opinions on inventory and managed hub and all that goodness, how do they do that?
By interrupting Ken's lunch.
Yeah, honestly, the question is simple. Like people have my name, find me on LinkedIn, send me a message. That kind of feedback in its purest form is what all of us in the product management space are always dying to get. So I want to keep it simple. I don't have some special form or this or that I can kind of push customers to. And that's honestly how we love working. Like, Ken gets this a lot, customers asking him questions off the cuff through LinkedIn or even through Teams. Like we like to get that raw, uninterrupted feedback at any moment because
we get
it
really
helps
excited about it.
Yes.
I also want our listeners to know that like while you bother Ken, Mik is genuinely so much nicer than Ken. You should bother Mik too.
Oh my God.
Well, guys, just tracking how this conversation.
Ken is my bad cop when I have to tell someone that like, okay, like Ken, I'm gonna need your help to say no to this person.
That is definitely true.
I'm so glad the way this question turned into this chaos. So that's a good way to wrap up the show. Mik, thank you so much for shedding light on inventory and talking about all the greatness that's about to come. This is, I think, your third time on the podcast, and we look forward to the 4th, 5th, and 6th. Thank you so much, Mik. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.